On
what is up, everyone? Welcome to the FAA podcast. Good to have Mark back. Logan will be on shortly as well, so we'll have three people for the first time in a bit, but couldn't get our guy Chris on. Unfortunately, he wasn't available today for the AFC East broadcast, but there's not much to talk about news-wise, so we'll get to that pretty shortly after we talk about these playoff games that went down this weekend. We have the USFL Championship game set. It will be the Pittsburgh Maulers, winners of the North Division, versus the Birmingham Stallions, defending champions and winners of the South Division for the second straight year. First game here, I was at I was out for this one. I didn't get to watch a lot. I got to watch the first quarter, and then I got to watch some of it at the bar. And the end of the game, which was the most entertaining part, I didn't get to watch because I was at Brett Eldridge concert at Summerfest. So, anyways, it was a good game, close one. I lost my under, but the team that I picked won. The team that we all three picked last week won. So, sucks for EJ Perry. He had a hell of a game in a loss. Most passing yards we've seen in the 2 seasons since the USFL has been back. 23 of 38, 60.5%, 370, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, 7 carries, 22 yards, a touchdown. Interestingly enough, both quarterbacks led their teams in rushing. Yeah. There was nothing on the ground for either squad, really. Troy Williams for Pittsburgh, 23 of 40, 57.5%, 203 yards, 1 touchdown, 6 carries, 36 yards. But key thing, I think, between them, the turnovers. Pittsburgh didn't have any, and Michigan had 3. They had 2 fumbles. One you can see there by Reggie Corbin, and then their tight end Cole Hicatini also put the ball on the ground, and then the interception by EJ Perry. Mauler's defense, the best one all year, and it continued to be that.
That's what won the Maulers the game. And on the flip side, I mean, that's just a glaring thing. You turn it over 3 times and somebody doesn't in a close game like this, then you're going to normally lose.
Yeah. Like I said, not much on the ground. Garrett Groshek did get into the end zone for the Maulers. A lot of passing yards, though, like I said. So Trey Quinn, the lone 100-yard receiver in this one for the Panthers, 5 catches, 104 yards, a touchdown on 8 targets. You had Marcus Sims scoring a touchdown. Isaiah Henney leading the way for Pittsburgh, 6 catches, 83 yards on 10 targets. Ishmael Hyman for Pittsburgh, who was a former Panther, also scoring a touchdown in this one. And then Bailey Gaither getting a touchdown on the ground. He had a 4-yard rushing touchdown in this game. Defensively, I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. Even though Frank Ginda, leading tackler on the season in the entire league, I'm going to go with a guy that's all USFL as well. Pittsburgh safety Arnold Tarpley III, 5 tackles, 2 solos, 1 pick, and 2 pass deflections there. Maulers ended up covering, which is kind of crazy, -2.5 in overtime, over 38.5. I thought I had a chance at the under, but did not get out. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Rusty.
Hey, Rusty.
Say hi. Then you got to go. Say hi.
But yeah, this thing went to overtime, and Pittsburgh went 2 for 3. Panthers went 0 for 3 in their 2-point tries, the 2-point shootout that they do for the USFL overtime rules. But yeah, like I said, Mauler's kind of crazy that they ended up covering in overtime, winning by 4 with the two-point conversions. Cole Murphy, by the way, kicked the game tying field goal, 47 yards at the end of regulation to send it to OT for Michigan. The South Division Championship was a absolute butt kicking by the Birmingham Stallions, 47-22. And Alex Magoo, of course, he's the MVP. And he showed everyone exactly why he was in this game. Birmingham's offense clicking on every single cylinder. They scored, I believe they scored on every single drive. I know they at least scored on the first 6, whether that be a field goal or a touchdown. But yeah, Magoo, 21-31, 67.7%, 310 yards, 4 touchdowns, 8 carries, 84 yards, another score on the ground, 5 total for him, 394 total yards. Is just complete domination.
Yeah, we were texting and you were like, man, this is just a shellacking.
Yeah. Skip Holtz, USFL Coach of the Year, looking like back-to-back titles coming his way, but we'll see. We'll talk more about that on Friday. McLeod Bethel Thompson struggled. The Birmingham defense got a big boost by getting Scooby Wright back in the middle at the middle linebacker spot. But MBT here in his final game of the year, 26 of 50, 52%, 273 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Might be the final game of his career. I know they were talking about that a little bit on the broadcast. He's been in the CFL for so long and came to the USFL, try to win a championship in the States, but 1 game, or I guess 2 wins short, but 1 game short of getting there. Ricky Person Jr., CJ Marable, Stallions' ground game was clicking in this one. Like I said, their whole offense was, but Person, 10 carries, 84 yards, 1 fumble, 1 reception for 24 yards. They rested Marable once he got dinged up a little bit, and then they were already up enough, so they kind of sat him the rest of the game. 11 carries, 72 yards, a touchdown, 1 catch for 4 yards. They did the same thing with Scooby Wright, who I mentioned earlier. They just didn't want to risk him getting hurt. But Cyrus Habibi Likio got a touchdown on one of his 2 carries in this one for New Orleans. Leading receiver in this one, Davion Davis for Birmingham, 5 catches, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5 targets. You had Jay Sternberger catching a touchdown from Alex Magoo, as did Josh Johnson. And Johnny Dixon, Sage Surratt for New Orleans both had double-digit targets, 12 for Dixon, 10 for Surratt. Surratt catching a touchdown as well, and then Jonathan Adams catching a touchdown for him. MBT. Defensive player of the game, easy. Stallions corner Brian Allen, 3 tackles, 2 solos, 2 picks, 3 pass deflections. The Stallions covered. I hit that one, -2.5. I had a -3, but didn't matter. Over 44.5. I was thinking about taking that live whenever the Stallions went down the field and got stopped, kicked a field goal, made it 3-0, and then New Orleans got a touchdown, made it 7-3, says 10 quick points. And I was like, do I want to take the over? Ended up going way over, 69 points in this game. Didn't matter at the end. If I should have taken the live over though, probably. All right, like I said, there's literally nothing going on this weekend in the news department. So we don't have anything for college, don't have anything for NFL, but there is one thing for XFL and USFL. Your city, Mark, St. Louis. Not official yet. I haven't seen a post from the XFL, but the main guy that I follow for XFL content on Twitter says St. Louis seems to be the host of the XFL Championship game next season. So maybe we'll have to get there.
I agree with that.
I won't be doing anything in my spring semester of my 3L year. It's fine. So that is the XFL news. USFL news. We had another award. So this week they're announcing all the rest of the awards, which is Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, MVP. Today they announced Special Teams Player of the Year for the USFL, and it's my guy, Showboats wide receiver Derek Dillon, Mr. 109 himself, talking about the 109-yard field goal that was short that he returned to the house. I can't remember who that was against, but yes, that was one of the best plays. And actually, I believe it won Play of the Year. They had a bracket going on. Actually, I don't think that's official yet, but it is in the semifinals of the USFL Play of the Year bracket right now. So make sure to go onto Twitter and vote for that. And also, he had over 1,100 all-purpose yards this season for Memphis. So really one of the electric playmakers in the league. And we've gotten to the AFC East preview here before Logan has even made it on the show, because he's coming on in a couple minutes. But let's get to it here. So these are the four difference makers in the AFC East this year that I put together. For New England, Juju Smith-Schuster. I couldn't find him in a Patriots jersey that wasn't Photoshopped. So I just put his Chiefs picture there from last year. But yeah, Juju Smith-Schuster, I probably should have put just a couple Patriots wide receivers up there, because who knows who is going to be the number one wide receiver. They don't have a guy. That's why they hosted DeAndre Hopkins on a visit. He's not going to sign for a little while anyways, probably right before training camp. He'll sign somewhere. But, yeah, if he doesn't, Juju's probably going to be the guy. Juju's, when you look at their receiving core, Juju has the most production out of anyone in that receiving core in his career. So he's not a number one. We know that, but he might have to be the number one if they don't get a guy like D-Hop. For New York, of course, it's Aaron Rodgers. Everyone's talking Super Bowl, or they were when they traded for Aaron Rodgers. Kind of cooled off a little bit in the summer when not many people were talking about football, but he's got to be it. If New York's going to do anything, it's going to be through A-Rod. So he's the key to the Jets season. You might not know who the Bills player is there, but it is a newcomer as well. Damian Harris, running back for the Bills, come over from the Patriots this offseason. Not sure if he's going to be the starter. I believe he will take the starting job eventually. James Cook is listed as the number one on the depth chart on ESPN right now. I think Damian Harris is the better back and the more closer to a three-down player than James Cook is. Sorry, fellow Bulldog, but going with the Crimson Tide player on this one.
I circled that position when we, listed that we were going to talk about him. We know if they get along, if he's there, we know Stephon Diggs, we know the quarterback position. It's just how much production are they going to get out of the running back position? How much is it going to be able to open up the passing game?
Yeah, that was the biggest issue for Buffalo last year was, well, on defense, they couldn't rush the passer without Von Miller. On offense, they couldn't run the ball unless it was Josh Allen. So I think getting Harris is a big key for that offense this year. And the Dolphins had a bunch of different options to pick, but I went with the quarterback. If Tua is healthy for all 17 games, I mean, we saw what he looked like in the first 6 weeks of the season last year. The Dolphins' offense is absolutely electric and explosive as hell when he's back there with all his playmakers. But when he was out, it wasn't, So I think Tua definitely is the key to the Dolphins season. That defense is going to be good again, but we'll talk more about that when we get to them at the end of the preview since they're the last team. What's up, Logan? You got here just in time. I'll ask you, even though I don't think you will have any thoughts, but did you have any thoughts? Did you get a chance to watch either of the playoff games this weekend?
I did not. The only thing that I did is I heard that the Stallions were rolling, which is no surprise, I think. So,
yeah, Alex Magoo, 394 total yards, 5 total touchdowns, winning by 25 there. But yeah, I was just talking to Mark, just finished up telling him about the 4 guys that I picked for the AFC East season this year. Juju for the Patriots, A-Rod for the Jets, Damian Harris for the Bills, and Tua for the Dolphins. If you want to comment on any of those or say any other guys that you think before we jump into the Patriots here.
Sure. Yeah, I think those are all good picks. I think A-Rod's the obvious choice for the Jets. I mean, there's really no other. They wouldn't be in this kind of playoff, potentially Super Bowl conversation if they didn't acquire him this offseason. I do agree with the Juju pick as well because I think the loss of Jacoby Myers is pretty big, and they couldn't really afford to lose a lot of wide receivers as it is. So Juju returning to that kind of wide receiver 1 role, if he can do that, would be huge for them. I agree with Damian Harris too. I think he could be a big role, have a big role for them. That running back role they just haven't seemed to figure out, and I think that's the last thing that could really open things up for the Bills. But another guy I think I like to think about too is rookie first rounder Dalton Kincaid. I also think they need a more reliable wide receiver too. Kincaid is kind of that hybrid tight end. If he could maybe kind of carve out a role in that offense, I think it could also be huge for them. And then I for sure agree with Tua because everything hinges on his health for this team. I truly believe that this is a Super Bowl caliber team in Miami, based on the pieces they've been able to acquire over the past couple off seasons, based on the hiring of Mike McDaniel, and when Tua's healthy in this offense, we've been able to see them be a Super Bowl caliber team. It's just, can he stay healthy? So hopefully they can do that, and I think the sky's the limit for them if they do.
Yeah, all on the same page there. So the Patriots here, re-signings, guard James Ferentz. A lot of defensive re-signings, though. Linebackers, Raekwon McMillan, Mac Wilson. Corners, Jonathan Jones, Jalen Mills. Safety, Jabril Peppers. Special teamer, Matthew Slater. And long snapper, Joe Cardona. Free agency, they didn't do much. Quarterback, Trace McSorley. Wide receiver, Juju Smith-Schuster. Tight ends, Mike Gesicki and Anthony Ferkser. Offensive tackle, Riley Reif. And punter, Corliss Waitman. So no defensive additions, no major ones anyways in free agency for the Patriots after they went on a sort of spending spree last year with the tight ends and whatnot, or maybe that was 2 years ago. It's all blending together, right, Mark? As when you get up to the around the 30 age. But yeah, I mean, obviously we talked about Juju. I don't think many of those other guys. Jonathan Jones was a big one to get back, and obviously the perennial veteran Matthew Slater, mainstay on the special teams. other than that, they really didn't acquire many, important guys. The losses here: quarterback Brian Hoyer, running back Damian Harris, wide receivers Nelson Aguilar and Jacoby Myers. They traded tight end Jonnu Smith to Atlanta. Offensive tackle Isaiah Wynn. Offensive tackle Marcus Cannon is a free agent. Corner Jawan Williams and punter Jake Bailey. Yes, interesting. No Brian Hoyer. Bailey Zappi is going to be the guy to back up. They got Trace McSorley to be the third string. But the Damian Harris, I mean, again, they have like a million running backs every year, so I don't think it matters that much since Ramondre took the reins last year.
Really, this team had more people leave than they had come in. Just names, if you're talking about Nelson Aguilar, Jonnu Smith, but we all know the big thing that is going to be the difference is who's calling the plays. You had a defensive guy splitting, calling with, the offense who hadn't before. So that didn't go well. And they're just trying to get their quarterback better in, his third year.
Mark's got a good point. Maybe I should have put Billy B up there.
The other Billy B.
Yeah.
I don't look at the Patriots as somebody that's
Billy O, I guess. Billy O, I should say.
That's really going to contend. You still have a Hall of Fame coach, and I'm sure he game plans to win some games. Maybe he doesn't, but are you looking at him in this division going, man, they can really compete with the Dolphins if Tua's healthy, or they can compete with Josh Allen, or they can compete with the young, Jets if Aaron Rodgers plays well. I don't see that.
Yeah, well, I agree. I have the Patriots going 6-11, 1-5 in division. The only team they split with is the Jets. I'm super high on Miami, super high on Buffalo. It doesn't start out very pretty for the Patriots, and it doesn't end very well either. Their schedule and this division schedule is probably the toughest schedules that you get in the league. I don't know if that's actually true based on, the schedule rankings by last year's opponent's winning percentage. But this division has to play the NFC East and the AFC West. And then their cross-divisional games are the AFC North, the NFC South. That one's not going to matter much because that division's not that great. And then the AFC South. So the two South divisions we know aren't that great right now, other than maybe one or two teams. But the other games, playing the East, playing the NFC East, the AFC West, and then that cross against the AFC North, those are all going to be very tough games to play for this division this year. So I have them starting 0-4 at home against the Eagles, which it's kind of funny because that's the game that Tom Brady is coming to and going to get. He's getting into the Ring of Honor that game? I don't remember. But anyways, I know Tom. I thought it was so funny when they said Tom Brady's coming to that game. The team that beat him, the only non-Giants team to beat him in the Super Bowl. Just saying. But loss. That's a loss. They lose Sunday Night Football at home against the Dolphins. They lose at the Jets. They lose at the Cowboys. And then they win a couple in a row at home against the Saints, at the Raiders. They lose 2 in a row, though, at home against the Bills, at the Dolphins. They win at home against the Commanders, win in Germany against the Colts. They have a bye week, so that is a 4-6 record going into the bye. So not terrible. You're still probably maybe a couple games out of a wild card at that point at 4-6. then they win after the bye. At the Giants, I think is an upset. I think that's a good upset, though, that they can do with a team that I'm not sure if they can replicate what they did last year. But then it doesn't get pretty. They lose 5 of their last 6 to end the season, including these next 5. At home against the Chargers, at the Steelers Thursday Night Football, at home against the Chiefs Monday Night Football, at the Broncos Sunday Night Football, and then at the Bills they lose. They win at home against the Jets, gets you to 6-11.
Let's say that they just hypothetically they win 8 games. Does that put him in contention to be coach of the year because of how bad this roster is?
No, because we saw frigging
how
Nick
good the
Sirianni. Nick Sirianni didn't win Coach of the Year last year, and the Eagles were the number 1 seed in the NFC. It's all about the first year, coach thing that everyone likes to see. The first year coach that does super well. It's all about new. No one wants the old guys that have been there for, a decade plus, like Mike Tomlin, Bill Belichick, and those guys.
I agree. I don't disagree with that. I think, though, if they can get to 8 wins or they somehow sneak out 9 or 10, this might be his best coaching job because of the way, in my opinion, I don't think this is a good team. I don't know if he's waiting around for it to grow and be competitive again. I don't really see his end game. It's not a team that's going to be hunting the playoffs or going to Super Bowls, but you could have your Hall of Fame, the best quarterback ever, or second best, depending on what era. I love Joe Montana. But if you win 8 or 10 games with this team, that's a heck of a coaching job.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good point you bringing up Bill O'Brien, because I think that could be potentially, if this team's going to get better from last year, that's where it is, because it was clear last year that the OC experiment was not working, and that there was a lot of visible frustration. I think that could potentially is where this team could get better with some more consistent, competent coaching on the offensive side of the ball. But I think it's offset with that tough schedule, as you mentioned, Rusty. I have them going 6-11 as well. I just think that, and I think it might be a team where they're kind of one of those teams that's a tough out, where, they'll hang in there, good coach team, Bill Belichick defenses, they'll keep it close, but I just am not sure talent-wise they have the horses to run with a lot of these teams in the AFC, but especially the 3 teams in their division. I just think it's going to be an uphill battle. And like I said, they might keep it close in some games. They might be a tough out, You're still going to have to wake up and go win one in Foxborough every couple weeks. But, it's just a tough road ahead, I think, for the Pats this offseason or this upcoming season.
Yeah. I could see them going worse. There are pretty much all of their wins that I have them, other than the Colts is probably the only win that I will feel super confident about. The other 5, I'm not. The Giants game, I can see the Giants beating them. The Jets game, if the Jets need that Week 18 game to make the playoffs, I can see the Jets beating them. Why not Sam Howell and the Washington Commanders winning in Foxborough? Why not? The Raiders, of course, Jimmy G revenge game. And then the Saints, Derek Carr could do it. So, yeah, I'm not totally confident about all their wins, and they'll probably win some upset ones along the way of the ones I have losses, but oh well. Fantasy-wise, quarterback Mac Jones, I'm not in on that one. I don't trust Mac in fantasy at all. For one, he's not this offense, if they're going to be successful, it has to roll through Ramondre Stevenson in my mind. So I don't think they're going to have stellar passing numbers all year, and I don't trust this receiving core also. So I'm out on Mac Jones. He's a backup. I think you could justify having him on your roster as your backup quarterback, but I'm not looking at him at all.
Yeah, and it is kind of interesting because I don't know if you look at the way that the Patriots are built, I don't think it's to accentuate Mac Jones's strengths, which coming out of Alabama were, just being smart with the football, getting it accurately into guys' hands who could do something with it after the catch. I think they're putting a lot on his shoulders in the passing game because of how thin they are, kind of at the pass catching position. And I think they're going to try to really run this offense through Ramondre Stevenson, just like you said. But you can only go to the well so much. This has become such more of a passing league. You have to be dynamic in both phases of the game. I don't think the offense is built for Mac Jones to do well from an on-field perspective or a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, that's to piggyback off of not being confident about the 5 wins is the receiving core. I just shake my head and go, who are you throwing to? I just don't. And Logan's 100% right. This league is about stretching the field. And if you have a good running back, that helps you. If you don't have a good running back and you don't have a number one marquee wide receiver, it's easy to dial in what you're going to do each Thursday or Sunday to teams. I think the 5 wins is attainable, maybe 6 or 7 because of having a good defense going into that atmosphere. But we've seen the Chargers, we've seen other teams just kind of crap the bed on some weeks and scratch your head, if that makes sense. Like, why did that happen?
Yeah. That's why they have Bailey Zappi. The Zapster can take it over if need be. Running backs, Ramondre Stevenson, Pierre Strong Jr. I think Ramondre is beast. He's going to be a dude this year. And like we already talked about, he's the offense. So, and their offensive line is still very good. So I think Bill knows that, and he's going to be a definitive RB1 in fantasy. Not a lot of catching, though, pass catching. They don't throw to the backs out a lot, unfortunately. But I still think he does enough in the ground game, especially touchdown-wise, to get in the RB1 category. Strong, I don't have too much to say. Love my South Dakota State Jackrabbit there, but I don't think they're going to give many carries to anyone outside of Ramondre.
Yeah. Yep. And like I said before, I think it's going to be tough because I think, a lot of attention is going to be drawn on Ramondre Stevenson. And like you said, I don't know if there's that pass catching upside, which is, again, I don't know, kind of interesting because, I think the offense could benefit from a back who can kind of stretch defenses horizontally and do some stuff out of the backfield. I'm not sure they have that guy on the roster right now. But yeah, I don't know. I'm very suspect of the Pats offense in general. So as an extension of that, I'm suspect on a lot of guys this year for fantasy for them.
Yeah. But I do think he's the only guy. I think he's the one guy that you trust in this offense. Wideouts, Juju Smith-Schuster, Devontae Parker, Tyquan Thornton. Should I keep at listing them? Because who even knows who's going to be the guys by the end of the year for New England. And I already talked about Juju a little bit. But again, they don't have a wide receiver one. Like Juju is a career wide receiver two that has tried to be a wide receiver one, but he's not. He's not the guy. They tried to do that with him in Pittsburgh. It didn't work out. I guess he kind of did it in Kansas City last year based off the numbers, but I still just don't see him as a wide receiver one. Devontae Parker has been touted as a wide receiver one before in Miami. Never was. And the trade really has not worked out in New England so far. Tyquan had a decent rookie year, learning to run more routes than just straight ahead. So he's got some dynasty upside, I think, anyways, depending on, quarterback of the future. But I don't know. I don't think there's any guys worthy of having. Juju is going to probably end up with mid wide receiver 2 numbers. Devontae might end up with wide receiver 3. But I could see Tyquan Thornton eating into that and him even developing into a wide receiver 3 flex option. But they do have other guys. Kendrick Bourne, and we'll talk about the 2 rookies in a second. Anything on the wide receivers, guys?
I feel like we've said all we need to say on them.
We've already bashed them enough. No, I'm kidding.
All right. Well, let's move on to tight ends then. Hunter Henry, the incumbent. Mike Gesicki, the newcomer, coming over from Miami. Should I add Anthony Firkser as well? Why not just run 13 personnel all game, right? You don't. Your wideouts aren't that great. Let's just run 3 tight ends every play, right? I could see them running a lot more 12 personnel, though, with the signing of Gesicki. I think that would make a lot more sense. Yeah. Because it feels like the last, 4 years, they've been trying to get back to the old Patriots, the Aaron Hernandez Gronk days, where they had 2 awesome tight ends, one that was great at doing both blocking and receiving, which is Hunter Henry, and the guy that's strictly a receiver, which is Mike Gesicki. So not sure if they're going to do that or not. It would suit them well if they want to run the ball more. But I think it just seems like Mike Gesicki is going to be a better option. I don't think either of these guys are going to be great. So I have them as backups, tight end 2 options, because Hunter Henry has had his chance, and then they threw the ball to Jonnu more than they did him. So,
yeah, that's the point I was going to make, is that I think if you're betting on someone, I would bet on Mike Gesicki, just because the Patriots themselves felt like they needed to go out and get him to try and add, kind of a different element. So maybe they're going to use him in a different way that'll make him more effective for fantasy purposes. But, kind of like I said, I don't know if this offense can sustain, multiple tight ends, guys who haven't really been effective for the majority of their careers. So yeah, I don't know. If I was betting on a guy, I'd bet on Gesicki for fantasy purposes, but like I said, I'm probably trying to stay away and finding something else.
I echo the same thing.
Yeah. How about kicker? Nick Folk. We'll talk about his competition in the rookie segment, but Nick Folk, the veteran in this battle here. I like him. I just don't think he's. We've already talked about how bad we think this offense is going to be. So I just don't think there's going to be enough opportunities, even though he is a pretty decent kicker. But he might not even win the job. Seeing as there's no kicker speak here, we'll move on to the Patriots defense. And the Patriots defense is always pretty solid, right? They really didn't lose a lot. They re-signed Jonathan Jones, Jabril Peppers, both starters here. And they didn't really add much when you look at it. They added a guy that I actually read about today in the off-season standout article for each team. Marte Mapu, Sacramento State, third-round pick. He has apparently made some eye-popping plays in OTAs and minicamp. And he's listed as a third-string safety right now, but no one's sure of where he's going to play because he's such a linebacker safety hybrid. He's a newcomer that could possibly make some hay on this defense, but most of it's all veterans or guys that aren't rookies anyways, like Marcus Jones in his second year. Christian Gonzalez, first-round pick on this defense. He's going to be the starter opposite Jonathan Jones. I think they're a starting caliber defense. They're on the lower end, but I do think they can be in that 10 to 12 range, depending on how many teams you have.
Yeah, for me, it comes down to that rough schedule. I'm worried about it. You know, I would for sure like them in some streaming situations if they're going up against, you know, someone who's, you know, kind of below where they're at.
The Colts in Germany.
Yeah, yeah, that one. But other than that, yeah, for me, it's just I think the division is going to be tough. That's about 6 games right there where I don't want them in the lineup. So, yeah.
They're always going to be well coached. Didn't lose a lot of people. I would like to be devil's advocate, but I can't because I'm still agreeing with Logan. When you're going up against, you know, Tyreek Hill or your Aaron Rodgers or Allen in your division alone, and then you have people like, you know, the Chargers and Justin Herbert and things like that. You go to Denver. I'm definitely not taking them number one.
Yeah.
You might have to pick them up on a wire or if they're available, but I just don't. This is a team I don't think it's, besides maybe the defense, it's just not well put together in my mind. And it goes back to having Bill O'Brien might be the key. Him and Juju.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's talk about rookies here. So we got 2 wide receivers and a kicker. Wide receivers, Kayshon Boutte, Demario Douglas. Boutte, what was he, third round? 6th round. I don't know why. Well, everyone was saying he was going to go day 2. That's right. 6th round. Also, Demario Douglas, 6th rounder as well, out of Liberty. Boutte out of LSU. So 2 6th round wide receivers. They're listed in the depth chart, you know, 5th and 6th right now behind the 4 veterans that they have. And obviously Boutte's the guy. He's the guy that everyone thought was going to go day 2. Went day 3, late day 3. Now maybe there's some pressure off him. Has never produced like he did in his sophomore season, or was that freshman year? I don't remember. Whatever. But he's the guy that you know we talk about. They don't have a 1. He's the guy that has the size and the traits that he can be the number one if he gets it together.
I mean, SEC's a tough league to play in. He's got the attributes. He could have been affected by injuries. I think it's a great three. On the third day, is there a better pickup if that person is sitting there? So all he can do is come out and prove it to you.
Yeah, he went in the 5th round in our rookie draft, 41st overall. Demario Douglas did not get drafted. Yeah, Demario Douglas went undrafted. But Douglas, a guy at Liberty, very good receiver there, had some excellent games, especially when Malik Willis was there in 2021. And he's more of a possession receiver. But, again, they kind of need guys for the future anyways. So not on the radar right now in Dynasty. Booty, I think, definitely should be on the radar in Dynasty. Like I said, he can be a number one eventually, possibly with the Patriots. But I don't think there's much redraft value unless you're looking at just a late flyer and there's really no one else there.
Yeah, I agree. That's where I'm at.
And how about the kicker, Chad Ryland? He did not. He went undrafted, unfortunately, in our rookie draft. Jake Moody did get drafted though in our rookie draft, by the way. The rookie kicker for the 49ers, but that's what you get when you draft a kicker in the 3rd round. Ryland, a 4th rounder, I believe. Yes, I was right on that one. Was wrong on Booty, but right on Ryland. Love the alliteration. Anyways, Chad Ryland, excellent kicker in his college career at Maryland. And from my area in Pennsylvania, Lebanon, Pennsylvania. So it's about 45 minutes for me, but still my area. I think he's got a good chance. It's a tough battle against Nick Folk, but it's tough to cut a kicker that you drafted that high in the 4th round. So I think just by them drafting him there, it's going to be an uphill battle for Nick Folk. So I think Ryland's probably going to end up winning the job. That they're going to end up with a rookie punter and kicker, even though they signed Corliss Waitman. They also drafted Bryce Beringer out of Michigan State. And I think both are probably going to win their jobs. Ryland, again, I already said it with Folk. I like the kid, but probably not going to be enough opportunities with what this offense gives you. I love me some Chad Ryland. He's a beast.
Yeah,
All
for
right.
dynasty purposes, I'm looking at it just because, like you said, they invested high-end capital on them, so I'm expecting a lot. But I don't know if you roster 2 kickers in dynasty. I wouldn't. For me, he's more of a stash guy. So
I can tell you if I do right now. I don't remember if I do. My kicker is Graham Gano, so no, I don't have 2 kickers. So that answers that. Anyways, all right, let's move on to the new look New York Jets. So re-signings: center Connor McGovern, edge rusher Carl Lawson and Solomon Thomas, linebacker Quincy Williams, safety Jordan Whitehead, and kicker Greg Zuerlein. Talking about all the kickers today and punters. Free agent trade-wise, they, of course, traded for quarterback Aaron Rodgers. They signed his best friend, quarterback Tim Boyle. They also signed his other best friends, wide receivers Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb. and wide receiver Mecole Hardman. Offensive tackle Billy Turner, center Wes Schweitzer, defensive tackles Quentin Jefferson and Al Woods coming over from Seattle. And then they traded for safety Chuck Clark. Unfortunately, he tore his ACL, necessitating another Packer coming over in safety Adrian Amos. And then they signed punter Thomas Morstead as well. So I'm sure that A-Rod hangs out with Morstead, being the elder statesman on the team that they are. Because Morstead's older than he is and been around quite a while. Super Bowl champ Thomas Morstead with the Saints.
I don't even know where to begin or who wants to begin. I laugh internally, not as much externally, if that makes sense, because you have Aaron Rodgers, who is the marquee pickup, right? And he always said, well, and he complained a little bit, but he didn't publicly complain as much as people thought. But you essentially brought people from Green Bay, and he was like, I want to be surrounded with these guys or a playmaker. Why didn't you do this in the draft? Or I didn't have, X, Y, and Z. And you're shipping people from Wisconsin over to New York, and I just keep going, okay, yeah, you have Dackett there, you have people there, you have X, Y, and Z, but you still have your same posse, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And some of it, you didn't know that somebody was going to tear their ACL, but it makes me go, you better bet on this defense because it's the same offense. Unless, I'm a proponent that Breece Hall is a stud, right? But if you're going to do what Brady did down in Tampa, why aren't you calling Dalvin Cook? Whether you agree with me or not, man, load up with as many people as you can get to try to get that Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I would call D-Hop. I'd ask both of them to come to New York and play with me.
Yeah, that's the thing. They didn't win a Super Bowl in Green Bay with all the guys that they brought over. Like, they won a Super Bowl a decade plus ago.
Yeah, I'm not saying that he won them with that, but it's still the same team.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. It didn't make sense.
It does not add up to me.
Yeah, it didn't make sense. If you didn't win a Super Bowl with those guys, then why would you think you would win a Super Bowl with the same guys in a different location in a harder division?
Well, I firmly believe it's a harder division. Are you thinking the offensive line is better? Well, I'm trying to go through.
It's not, yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you guys more on this, to be honest, because this is what Packers fans have essentially been echoing all offseason. Look, it was obvious the teams needed a split there, and maybe all it is a change of scenery that needs to happen. But all we've heard for the last 4 seasons since Flores come in is that, and even more than that, is the Packers have not surrounded Aaron Rodgers with enough talent. They just failed to do it every time, whether it's the first round wide receiver talk or, he's never had a top 10 defense since they won the Super Bowl, this and that. And the thing is that this is a very similar team to what the Packers have had, specifically because there are a ton of Packer players on this team, and former OC being their OC. You're looking at a team that has a wide receiver 1 in Garrett Wilson, but they don't have a wide receiver 2. They have 2 wide receiver 3s in Mecole Hardman and Allen Lazard. That was the big knock on the Packers for the last 3 seasons. Okay. They have a worse O-line than the Packers have. And to me, we'll see how Breece Hall comes back healthy. They have a worse running back room. I think A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones is a better running back room. Mm-hmm. Now, the offset of that, and why I say that they're very similar, I think even on an even keel, is that I do think they have a better defense, especially in how it's coached. I do think that's where they get the edge and where they can kind of taken advantage there. But in terms of what they have kind of on paper, talent-wise, this is very similar. And now, do I think they could win the Super Bowl? For sure. The Packers were close to winning it. They were in the Final Four like 2 years in a row. They made the divisional round another year. It could definitely happen for them. But it's not a shoo-in, and I just think that it's hilarious now. The spin and kind of the national media and everything is now, we're excited about the Jets and everything, where that same media has been getting on the Packers for years about not doing enough, and the Jets have essentially done the exact same playbook. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting. We'll just see how it goes.
Well, let's get to the mass exodus of players that they lost this offseason. Quarterback Joe Flacco is still a free agent. They lost quarterback Mike White, wide receiver Braxton Berrios, traded away wide receiver Elijah Moore. Offensive tackle George Fant is a free agent. Offensive tackle Cedric Obuhi. Guards Dan Feeney and Nate Herbig. Guard Laurent Duvernay-Tardif is a free agent. Defensive tackles Sheldon Rankins and Nathan Shepard. Edge rusher Vinnie Curry is a free agent, as is linebacker Quan Alexander, and safeties Lamarcus Joyner and Will Parks. And they lost punter Braden Mann as well. Obviously, Thomas Morstead in, man out. Not a lot of big losses. Maybe the linemen, but other than that, I don't think many of those guys are going to hurt. The D tackles possibly, but again, it was 2 out, 2 in with Jefferson and Woods coming over from Seattle. Even though Al Woods is now in his, I think, going into age 36. 36. Look at that, right on the number.
Hey, you stop with 36.
He's going into age 36 season here. So much older than Nathan Shepard. I would say the Sheldon Rankins, Quentin Jefferson. I think Quentin Jefferson's better than Sheldon Rankins. But Al Woods, I think, maybe talent-wise, is better than Nathan Shepard. But it's how much does he have left in the tank? That's the biggest question with him. Luckily, he doesn't have to do it alone. They have one of the best D tackles in Quentin Williams in the league there. Shall we move on to the schedule?
Let's do it.
Okay. I have a lot of scribbles because while I was quickly doing the wins and losses here, I kept having to recalculate the divisional record, and then I had to recalculate the calibration between the Patriots schedule and the Jets schedule to make it fit divisional record wise. So I originally had them 11-6, but I forgot I have the Patriots winning week 18. So that jumps the Jets down to 10-7. I think 10-7 is still good enough to make the wild card, even in a loaded AFC. 10 wins is probably going to be your 7 seed at the 6 or 7. I think probably the 5 seed is going to have 11 or 12 wins, and then the 6 and 7 are going to have 11 and 10 wins, somewhere along that. I don't think anyone gets in at 9 wins in this conference. So 10-7, 2-4 in the division. That is splitting with the Patriots and the Dolphins. It doesn't start out very good for Aaron Rodgers. 0-2 at home versus the Bills, Monday Night Football. Then they go to Dallas, both losses. They win at home against the Patriots week 3, at home against the Chiefs Sunday Night Football. That is a loss. They win at the Broncos. They lose at home against the Eagles, which I will be at that game, by the way, in MetLife Stadium. They week 7 bye. So it's not very promising for the Aaron Rodgers era. 2-4 going into the bye week. They clean it up, though, and get it right down the stretch. At the Giants, week 8. That is a win, even though it's the same stadium. But Snoopy Bowl regular season edition. Love to see that. They win at home against the Chargers Monday Night Football. They win at the Raiders Sunday Night Football. They lose at the Bills. They win at home against the Dolphins on the first ever Black Friday game, which will be intriguing to watch. I think I'll have to sign up for a free subscription. I think that's on like Prime or something like that. I don't know.
I'll give you my login.
All right. Then they win at home against the Falcons, at home against the Texans. They lose at the Dolphins. Can't play in Miami. That's tough. Then they win at home against the Commanders, at the Browns on Thursday Night Football. They win that one. Then they lose week 18 at the Patriots. Again, they could win that game possibly if they needed to, which they might. But right now I have them losing that one. The schedule, the second half of the schedule is so nice for the Jets.
I do agree with the second half of the schedule. I love you, Rusty, and I think the Eagles had a great season last year. I think that's the one team you always have a Super Bowl hangover. I'm not getting caught up on that, but you did lose 2 coordinators. And my thing with the Eagles are we going to still put them as high as they were last year?
Mm-hmm.
You know, do the Cowboys jump up? Cowboys have a nice receiving core if everybody stays healthy. I think that could be a win, so maybe that's 11 wins.
Hey, man, I had the Eagles going 13-4, so.
Ooh, that's pretty darn – and there's nothing wrong because they're a good team. Don't get me wrong. You can lose coaches. You've seen it under, other coaches. I wonder about the Eagles. And are they going to get to 13 wins? Or are they going to be more 11 wins?
Again, I'll be at that game, so I'll let you know.
That's awesome. I love that you're going.
Yeah, me and Chris will be there.
I might have to get on that bandwagon.
$110 a ticket.
That's not bad.
It's like 1.5 times less than Eagles home games. That's why I'm not going to Eagles home game.
You might
Plus,
have to what's that date?
I don't know. It's October 16th or something. No,
it's gosh, that's my birthday.
October 15th. I don't know. All Eagles home games are ridiculous, though. It's like $260 to go to an Eagles home game this year because of how many good people they play this year in Philly. Yeah, October 15th.
If Tua is not the quarterback when they play once, I think that what happens there, or both games.
Yeah, like I said, that Black Friday game I think is going to be spectacular. I think. But yeah, Logan, what do you got for the Jets?
I have them going 11-6. Similar wavelength here. I think they'll probably grab one of the wild card spots. I think I had them finishing 3rd in the division.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough schedule, man. You look at their schedule. There's a reason why they have a lot of primetime games now. I think they're going to be competitive in a lot of them. That's why I think that they'll still kind of sneak into the playoffs. But yeah, I mean, it's not going to be easy though. It's not going to be this kind of let's get this kind of super team built up and just run the league. It's going to be a tough road ahead, and I think there are a lot of other teams that have more consistency in their personnel, that have maybe more talent as well, that are going to be in a better position to win. So yeah, that's where I am on them. I got to hop off. You want to give the rundown?
Yeah, what do you got for Buffalo and Miami?
Miami, I also have going 11-6. I had them finishing 2nd in the division, I think, and I had Buffalo going 13-4 to kind of to take the division.
All right,
gentlemen. Good to see you.
See you,
Yeah.
Logan.
Appreciate it, man.
No problem. Have a good
Let's jump into the fantasy focus here for the Jets. Quarterback Aaron Rodgers. I'm probably not looking at him. I think people are going to overdraft him, and I'm not one to do that, even though he's an older guy and he doesn't have rushing statistics to boast about. So I think he's a low-end quarterback one. He does have enough weapons to produce QB1 numbers. I probably just won't be able to draft him because it'll be out of my price range.
I think he's how do you put this? He's a quarterback that I wouldn't take off the board over the 3 or 4 other guys, or maybe even top 5. But if you're in that draft position and you need somebody that's quality, he's going to put up some numbers. It goes back to just being different fantasy and really what you need at the quarterback position. He's not going to put up a bunch of, like you said, the rushing numbers aren't going to be there. He's got to hit the end zone. I would say that, it's all linked to Garrett Wilson, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Garrett Wilson might be a number 1 wide receiver, but his quarterback might be low end compared to him.
Yeah, I was trying to get rid of Aaron Rodgers in my one dynasty league because his dynasty value is draining really fast.
Oh, yeah. His age, and he doesn't run. He's got to put up a bunch of touchdowns in order to be that top-tier guy. I don't think anyone's going to take him off the board over, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Herbert, like those type of guys. I guess my question would be, would you take – if they're both on the board, do you take Russell or do you take Aaron Rodgers?
I think I would take Russell Wilson because
he's going to get you running yards.
Well, he didn't last year. He didn't run a lot last year, but I have faith that Sean Payton will correct a lot of the deficiencies that showed up in Denver last year. So that's a bet on Sean Payton more than Russell Wilson.
Exactly.
Let's move on to running back, your guy, Breece Hall and Michael Carter, the top 2. We'll talk about the third guy, the rookie, in a second. But Breece Hall should be a dude this year. The offensive line, I think, it hasn't really improved, but I don't think it's got worse either. I'm hesitant to put him in RB1 right now because of the coming off the injury from last year. So I'll put him as a high-end RB2 with definite RB1 upside.
I agree to that. There's an injury. There's new personnel. How are they going to use them? How are they going to – not even how they're going to use them, how are they going to transition into that offense? So, high RB2, he comes back full-fledged, then he might move up to the RB1.
Yeah, and it also is going to be interesting to see how Nathaniel Hackett comes in and utilizes Michael Carter because he's the better pass catching back. So the hope would be that Michael Carter doesn't get a lot of reps if you're a Hall owner, but Michael Carter could have flex value if we're seeing him get a lot of third down work. So wide receivers, 3 of them here: Garrett Wilson, Allen Lazard, Mecole Hardman. Wilson, like you mentioned, Mark, I don't think he's a surefire stud number 1 yet. I think he's a lower end wide receiver 1 right now. We'll have to see how it transpires between him and Aaron Rodgers. Seems like that connection is going well so far, but I'm putting him on the lower end of the wide receiver 1s currently.
I agree with that. And then the other 2, we can talk about it. Only thing I like about Mecole Hardman is he can stretch the field at times, and I actually like the contract that they gave him. He stepped into Barrios' contract, got a couple player options. That's different. But you have to think Lazard has a connection from Green Bay, and he's going to get you points. It depends all on how – for me, it's a big scope thing. Who you're playing and what do you think he can give you?
I think Logan was wrong when he called Allen Lazard a wide receiver 3. I know he was talking more about real life football wide receiver 3. I thought Allen Lazard all his career in Green Bay was a bona fide wide receiver 2, and that's where I think he will land in fantasy this year because of that prior connection with Aaron Rodgers. He loves Allen Lazard, and I think Allen Lazard this is going to be a bold statement maybe, but I think Allen Lazard is going to be the most valuable wide receiver 2 on any team in the NFL this year. So I really like him in fantasy, and being the second guy on the depth chart, you're going to be able to get him in the middle rounds, somewhere in that 6 to 8 round range, maybe a little higher than that, 4 to 5, but still, you're going to be able to get him later as a wide receiver 2 price, which is nice.
And I agree. That's going to be his safety blanket. Think about it. All these new guys, you have a young person that's talented. What are we going to do with it? Mecole Hardman's coming in. We know that he's more one-dimensional. That's going to be his safety blanket, which what I would reiterate would be that's a solid number 2.
Yeah, and then I think Mecole Hardman could even surprise some people, maybe sneak into the wide receiver 3 numbers, but I think he's a definite flex from week to week. You can feel comfortable putting him in the flex spot. I think he'll get you enough, especially because I think Nathaniel Hackett likes to throw the ball more than he likes to run the ball. So it'll be interesting to see how many times what their split is, pass and run. Let's go to the tight ends here. Tyler Conklin, CJ Uzomah, both still there. Not a big fan of either guy, especially it's kind of like the quarterback, the old quarterback saying, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you got none. That's kind of how I feel about these guys. They kind of cancel each other out, I think, at times, and you never really know which one's going to show up the most. So I think Conklin is the more valuable guy. He's the guy that is listed as the starter, and he's the better blocker of the 2. So I think he's going to be on the field more, get more opportunities. And tight end 2, though. Neither are going to be a tight end 1.
No.
Let's go with your old Rams kicker here, Greg Zuerlein.
Legatron.
Re-signed with the Jets this year, and I like him. I like him a lot. I like him as a starting kicker. Normally, I think he would be maybe in the mid to high end range. I like him as a lower end one. I don't know why. That's just a gut feeling. He has the leg to kick everything, like you said. And this offense should produce enough opportunities for him to kick field goals and extra points on a weekly basis.
I agree. I think if you're going on a week-to-week basis or the schedule, he may be a really good kicker to own before the bye week. Obviously, you're not trying to change people a lot. But while they're trying to figure out the red zone offense, if they didn't have enough time to mesh, I do think he's going to get opportunities.
Yeah. I think a lot of field goals going to come in that first 6 weeks, like you said. Jets defense. Now, this one, I feel similar to the Patriots, but I think the Jets defense is better. Robert Saleh, obviously, is a great defensive mind, and they got some guys with Adrian Amos now stepping into the other starting safety spot voided by Chuck Clark's injury. They got Quincy Williams back at linebacker. They re-signed Carl Lawson as well. They drafted Will McDonald this year, added Quentin Jefferson out of Woods, like I mentioned. And they also, I think Will McDonald was really the biggest addition rookie-wise on this defense. So I like them. They were a top 10 defense last year, I think. Not 100% on that, but I like them as a starting caliber defense. They're pretty scrappy and solid scheme. And, of course, the all-pro Sauce Gardner coming into his second year as well. Hopefully he continues to produce for this defense. I think they're good. I like them as a starting defense.
I actually love them as a starting defense. You get a little pressure on the offense, maybe alleviate some things that they weren't able to do or they were on the field too much last year. Love Robert Saleh. I do. I have them maybe not a coming off the board in the top 1, 2, or 3, but mid-tier D1.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. All right, the rookies. These two guys aren't going to be contributors in redraft leagues, but I think you got to look at both of them as possible dynasty candidates. Israel Abanikanda, the running back out of Pitt, fifth round. Look at that. I am on today. Started out with a stumble on Kayshon Boutte, but have rebounded. Israel Abanikanda, though, he in our dynasty league went in the 4th round, 36th overall. So not a bad place to get him. He's got an uphill battle, though. He's obviously got Breece Hall, Michael Carter in front of him. Not sure how much he's going to contribute. Great special teams player, I think, in his rookie season with some offensive snaps. I think, though, I don't think Michael Carter is going to be there after his rookie deal is up. So I think Abanikanda is going to be the eventual number 2, makes him valuable in dynasty leagues. So I think, he's undrafted in most leagues with only 3 rounds in a lot of dynasty rookie drafts. But I think he's a player worth watching for 2024 and beyond. And the other guy I have listed, tight end Zach Kuntz. Kuntz listed as the 4th tight end. He's even got a bigger mountain to climb than Abanikanda does, being listed 4th. Maybe they don't even keep 4 tight ends on the active roster. He might have to find a practice squad spot. But even so, this kid jumped out of the gym at the combine and also had a decent production at Old Dominion. The only issue was really only a 1-year starter, has had injuries throughout his career when he was at Penn State and Old Dominion. So he hasn't played a lot of ball in college, but I really like him. Not worthy of dynasty roster spot right now either, with Conklin, Uzama, and former 3rd-round pick Jeremy Ruckert there as well. So I like him, though. Eventually, maybe he could be something for this Jets team. You like either of those guys, Mark?
I think he has the athletic ability to be on a – I don't know if it's going to be the Jets, but I think he could land somewhere. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. All right, the Buffalo Bills. Let's go to the AFC East champs currently. Re-signings here, running back Nyheim Hines, guard David Quessenberry, defensive tackle Jordan Phillips, edge rusher Shaq Lawson, linebackers Tyler Matakevich and A.J. Klein, corner Dane Jackson, safeties Jordan Poyer and Dean Marlowe, and punter Sam Martin. They did some stuff in free agency. Added quarterback Kyle Allen to be the backup. running backs Latavius Murray and Damian Harris, wide receivers Deontay Hardy and Trent Sherfield, guards Connor McGovern and David Andrews, the other Connor McGovern coming over from Dallas, not the Jets Connor McGovern. Going to be really interesting, them both playing in the same division now. Defensive tackle Poona Ford, edge rusher Leonard Floyd, corner Cameron Dantzler, and safety Taylor Rapp. I loved all the defensive additions there. Those last 4 guys in free agency were awesome to get on this defense. I don't know why Poona Ford is listed as the 3rd defensive tackle. He should be at least in the 2nd spot. But they got a good defensive tackle group there in Buffalo. Leonard Floyd, definitely they needed him. Him and Von Miller, luckily for them, have history together, rushing the passer with your Rams there in LA on that Super Bowl team.
I could not be more excited by some of their signings.
And then Cameron Dantzler, former 3rd-round pick of the Vikings, coming over to help them out at corner. And then Taylor Rapp is another Ram there that's a beast at safety. So
we won't talk about the rain outside of SoFi that we experienced.
Hell no. But yeah, overall, excellent job by Brandon Beane this offseason with the re-signings and free agency additions, keeping the likes of Jordan Poyer, Dane Jackson. I think the secondary additions and re-signings were the biggest keys. And then the offensive additions of Damian Harris. And Trent Sherfield was also in that article that I mentioned earlier on ESPN of offseason standouts for each team. Josh Allen really liked what he saw from Trent Sherfield in offseason practices with Diggs sitting out a couple days there. Sherfield getting some ones reps. Losses, not a lot of major contributors lost. A couple, though. Quarterback Case Keenum, running back Devin Singletary, wide receivers Isaiah McKenzie, Jamison Crowder, Cole Beasley is a free agent. Offensive tackle Bobby Hart is a free agent, as is guard Roger Saffold. They also lost guard Greg Van Rotten and linebacker Tremaine Edmonds and safety Jaquan Johnson. Edmonds, obviously the biggest loss, middle of that defense. But they did re-sign A.J. Klein, like I said, and they have a guy in they re-signed Tyrell Dodson as well, who is going into his 4th season. And then they drafted Terrell Bernard last year in the 2nd round out of Baylor, or 3rd round out of Baylor last year. I don't know. He's listed as outside linebacker, though, not middle like where Klein plays. It's weird, though. They have Leonard Floyd as an outside linebacker. I don't know why. With the Bills running a 4-3, Leonard Floyd should be a defensive end, but it's the weirdness of ESPN depth charts. So, anyways, it's going to be a big loss, Edmonds, but I think they'll be okay. A veteran guy like A.J. Klein should do okay in his stead. Of course, they still have Matt Milano there as well.
When we're talking about signings, taking away, who's leaving, coming, vice versa, I know that you can take a whole sample size, if that makes sense. And I'm not gonna try to make this 30 minutes. I think about the Cincinnati game in the playoffs. It was disastrous. Let's talk about it. Like, 2 good teams, they come into your house, it's snowing. It was disastrous. A lot of things happened before that game. You know, we know that. But everything that they're doing this offseason, in my opinion, is to address those needs to be competitive at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. You can get off to an 0-2 start or an 0-3 start, and I don't think anybody's going to start scratching your head about the Buffalo Bills. Eventually, they're going to right the ship. In my mind, everything is to be really good in the 2nd round of the playoffs. to address the issues that they had.
Yeah, and I think when you look at, obviously, you always start with, okay, we want to win our division, right? Well, when you look at the teams in the division and how the Bills' defense is set up, I think they're prime because they're not going to face – the weakest part is that linebacker group outside of Matt Milano. And that's who you're going to have covered. The number one tight end on the other side is going to be Matt Milano or one of, their 5 safety. They go 5 deep at safety. Taylor Rapp, Jordan Poyer could also definitely do a great job covering the number one tight end. But when you look at the conference, like you said, you got to face Travis Kelce. That's the best tight end in football, and he's in your conference. You're going to have to cover him. That's where the biggest issue comes in with this defense and when they play the Chiefs. So, but anyways, you said 0-2, 0-3. Well, I have them starting 4-0.
No, I'm not saying they're going that. That's just that's doomsday, right? That's doomsday.
I have them starting 4-0, 12-5 overall, 5-1 in the division. Only splitting with the Dolphins. They win at the Jets on Monday Night Football week 1. Week 2, they win at home against the Raiders, win at the Commanders, win at home against the Dolphins week 4. I wanted to count this as a win, but I counted it as a loss week 5 because they're going into the Jags' hometown as well. In London, that's Jaguars territory right there. It's a home game for Buffalo, technically. But it's in London against the Jags. I have the Jags winning that one as an upset. Because I can't pick them all as wins as much as I would like to.
I do agree with the 4-0 start.
Week 6, they are home. Sunday Night Football against the Giants is a win. They win at the Patriots. They win at home against the Bucks. Thursday Night Football, week 8. Week 9 is their first loss, and it's a heartbreaker because they lose in Cincinnati on Sunday Night Football. They win week 10 at home against the Broncos. Monday Night Football. They win at home against the Jets. They lose at the Eagles week 12. Yeah, I it's going to happen.
No, I don't have any problems. I think they split with the Jets.
So by week 13, a late one here, they go into that at 9-3, so feeling really good. And then it's kind of a split at the end, 3-2 to finish the year. At the Chiefs is a loss. At Kansas City, that's tough. Playing in Cincy and in Kansas City, the other two big three of the big 3 AFC teams, that's tough to go on the road, both of those. And especially Cincy, since that's a primetime Sunday night game. Then they win at home against the Cowboys. They win at the Chargers. That's a Saturday night game, week 16. They win at home against the Patriots, and they lose in Miami week 18, which you will see based off my predictions is for the division. Week 18 is for the division. They lose that one, unfortunately.
Depending on
like I said, the Bills are probably the 5th seed in the AFC.
Depending on who the quarterback is, I don't know what to pick on week 18.
Yeah. You feel good about 12-5 though? Logan's got 13-4.
12 and is there a reason why they would not win 11 games and not win 13 games? In my opinion, a lot of things have to happen. Injuries, X, Y, and Z. So you're talking about a team either winning 11 games or 13 games.
Yeah, so if they split with the Jets, that would drop them down to 11 on my book. But like we said before, this schedule is very tough. I could see them dropping some of these games potentially to there's There's
three
there's 4 games that I see that could flip all to losses potentially. And that's the Giants game, but that's in Buffalo, Sunday Night Football, Week 6. If the Giants are, going to be good again. And then the Broncos, Week 10, also in Buffalo, though, Monday Night Football. We already talked how I feel about the Broncos, and that's if Russell Wilson can improve under Sean Payton. And then the other 2 are back-to-back at home against the Cowboys Week 15. You sounded like a big proponent of Dallas earlier. So, again, that team could possibly, beat the Bills. And then at the Chargers Saturday night on Week 16, that's the only away game of the 4 wins that I have them that could be losses. So, again, I have them all winning those 4, but those are the 4 that I think could flip. Possibly.
I don't see them losing or winning any less than 11 games, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Fantasy-wise, quarterback Josh Allen. He's the stud. He's going to be a top 3 quarterback selection. It depends on how many teams you have and how you feel about quarterbacks. There's always some crazy guy that drafts a quarterback in the first round and is just stupid. But again, Josh Allen, I'm probably not going to be able to draft him. He's probably going to get drafted way higher than I want to. So, yeah, it's not worth drafting the guys, the quarterbacks early, even as good as Josh Allen is and some of the other dudes. So, definitely quarterback 1, but probably too rich for my wallet there. Running back here, James Cook, Damian Harris. And again, James Cook is listed as a starter, but I think Damian Harris is where the value is at. And I kind of wish Logan was still here because he's all up on the ADP stuff, average draft position, that I'm not right now. But I think Damian Harris is going to be the guy eventually, and he should be the guy you're looking at to draft over James Cook. So, yeah, give me Damian Harris as an RB1. In this offense, Damian Harris for sure can be an RB1. James Cook, I feel of more as a flex RB2 option. Should have really solid PPR value. But I just think Damian Harris is going to eventually be the number 1 running back and should be an RB1.
I see value in what you're saying with Damian Harris. In my opinion, I still think there's a running back out there they should go get. That's just my personal feelings. You could have 2 cooks.
No. Not enough. Too many cooks in the kitchen, man. You can't do that. But let's move to wide receivers. Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Khalil Shakir. Diggs, just like Josh Allen, that's the connection. Diggs is going to be a first-round pick, I think, in most leagues. Continues to be a stud every single year, 1,000 yards after 1,000 yards. And there's not an issue with him. Wide receiver 1 all day. And like Logan mentioned, the biggest issue he thought was the wide receiver 2 spot. They don't have a stable option at wide receiver 2. And I kind of agree. Gabe Davis, the shine has kind of, came off of Gabe Davis last year after his fantastic rookie playoff performance against Kansas City. And then his second year, he really struggled, especially with drops. We'll see what happens in year 3 for him. Khalil Shakir now going into year 2. He didn't do a lot in his rookie year, but I'm interested to see what Khalil Shakir has got in year 2, because this is a guy that was ultra explosive at Boise State, returned a lot of kicks there, but just 10 catches, 161 yards, and a touchdown in his rookie season on 20 targets. So he also had some drops, but big step up into the starting role this year. I'm interested to see what Khalil Shakir's got. Khalil Shakir should be on your dynasty radars because I think Gabe Davis might not stay in Buffalo past his rookie deal. Next year is last year of his rookie contract, being a second-round pick. So I think Khalil Shakir could be your guy going forward in Buffalo if he takes the next step in his second season here.
I concur. Sorry, my family was. It's hard having twins.
Moving on to tight end Dawson Knox. He's also a guy that's kind of been under fire, just like Gabe Davis. And he, I think, is still considered a low-end tight end 1. I'm just not sure how much longer he's going to be in that category with the rookie that we'll talk about in a second coming up.
I do think he has upside, but you're not, like you're saying, you're not taking him by any means first tight end off the board.
Yeah. And he's never been a high target guy. He's been touchdown dependent throughout his career usually. And it's just Josh Allen likes to throw the receivers more. So,
well, he also has somebody he has to please each week.
Let's go to the kicker, Tyler Bass. Awesome. He's a top 5 kicker, I think, and has a booming leg. So definitely starting caliber. Not much to say about Tyler Bass. His offense is going to get him plenty of opportunities. And then let's talk about Buffalo's defense. I already kind of mentioned all the starters pretty much, but Tre'Davious White now, a full healthy offseason, unlike last year where he's coming off the injury. Now he's second year after the ACL injury, so hopefully he should be back to normal. Kaiir Elam stepping in to a starting role in year 2 after his rookie season. And like we mentioned, they added a bunch of guys on this defense. Jordan Phillips, Poona Ford at DT. They added Leonard Floyd at pass rush and Taylor Rapp in the secondary. Cameron Dantzler at corner as well. So there aren't going to be any real contributors rookie-wise. But I think this defense is improved other than the big hole at linebacker. I think with what their schedule sets up as, I think they should have a good enough option to be lower end starting defense with high upside, though, depending on how this pass rush works out. Because I think their secondary is solid. I think they can cover everyone. It's just the middle of the field with the linebackers is where the issue might be. And then can they get enough pass rush? That was their biggest issue last year when Von Miller went down.
I agree. One thing I will say is McDermott is a defensive-minded guy. I think he anchored a lot of the great defenses in Carolina. He's came over to Buffalo. He's been a winning coach. So that's kind of a star if you're looking at him drafting as a defense. But I couldn't agree more with you have one linebacker that is very solid. He can cover the entire field, but who's going to be anchoring it with him? It's a pass-happy league, so I tend to like people that have a good secondary. If everybody stays healthy with the additions, you should get more pass rush, but you still are in a division outside of, Cincinnati having a great quarterback or the Chiefs, but those are the people you're going to have to play. So definitely for me, it's not going to be the number one defense off the board. But if you're looking at it and you have no other options, I think it's a great option if that makes sense.
And luckily for them, the schedule wise, they're not going up against many top offensive lines. Obviously, the Eagles might be considered, arguably the best offensive line in the league. They'll have to play them. The Dolphins, I think, have a sneaky good offensive line. So do the Chiefs and the Broncos and the Jags. Other than that, I think all the other offensive lines, they should have the advantage, especially at the tackle positions when I think about who is there for the other teams they're going to play. So, but yeah. Rookie-wise, two guys to talk about. Wide receiver Justin Shorter is the first guy. Now, a lot of people might not know about Justin Shorter because he was a fifth-round pick. Former Penn Stater, transferred to Florida in his college days, ended up getting drafted out of Florida. But he's a guy that's kind of a field stretcher, but can do a lot of stuff over the middle of the field as well. Listed as sixth on the depth chart right now. He's got a big opportunity. Even though Trent Sherfield showed out, they also signed him and Deontay Hardy this offseason. Hardy's going to make the team, obviously. I don't know why they have Nyheim Hines listed as the punt and kick returner. Maybe he will be, maybe he won't. Deontay Hardy, though, was an awesome returner for the Saints, especially on punts. So I'd have to think Deontay Hardy's going to be your punt returner, Nyheim Hines your kick returner, if that shakes out that way. But I like Justin Shorter. Not anything in Dynasty right now, but someone to keep on the radar as, guys shift in and out of this Buffalo team the next couple of seasons. Now let's talk about the guy that does have redraft value and major dynasty value. First round tight end Dalton Kincaid. That's why I mentioned Dawson Knox is a low end tight end one for now, but I'm not so sure if he stays there the entire season because of Kincaid. I think you can draft Kincaid as a backup tight end in redraft right now. And then second half of the season, he might be a stud. Redraft, he's going high. Kincaid was the first tight end off the board. Second round, 11th overall in our first pick in the second round for our league. So, yeah, he's going really high in dynasty drafts right now.
I love him. I love the pick. I think it's a good fit for this offense. Am I wrong? You have a one wide receiver. You need somebody to come across the middle. If who I think Harris is going to, Damian Harris is going to be for this offense, I think it's a great fit, and pick him up in your dynasty as soon as you can.
Yeah, and I mean, Logan mentioned it earlier. They need someone to step up and be a consistent contributor as the second option to Diggs. And maybe it does end up being Kincaid. I made a case for Khalil Shakir, but I could see a scenario where Kincaid ends up being the second option and Dawson Knox. That's the only thing with Kincaid. He's not a blocker. That's what the value of Dawson Knox will be more once Kincaid gets more ingrained into the passing game.
A big thing for me is I actually think he could be really good in the red zone for the Bills.
Yeah.
If you have to defend X, Y, and Z, you might forget about a rookie, and there might be opportunities for him to score touchdowns.
Yeah, and I mean, if he would improve his blocking, I mean, sky's the limit. All right, that's the Buffalo Bills. Now let's finish up with the Miami Dolphins here. So, re-signings, yeah, so they re-signed every running back in like the entire league. It's just I don't understand why they had to draft one when they had 5 running backs that they re-signed. So they re-signed running backs: Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson Jr., Salvin Ahmed, Myles Gaskin, and fullback John Lovett. They re-signed all those guys, as well as wide receiver River Craycraft, edge rusher Andrew Van Ginkel, and corners Nick Needham and Elijah Campbell. Signings wise, I mean, the Dolphins have gone kind of crazy the last couple of years. Then they did it again this year. Quarterback Mike White, wide receivers Chosen Anderson and Braxton Berrios, tight end Tyler Croft and Eric Saubert, offensive tackle Cedric Abuhi and Isaiah Wynn, guard Dan Feeney, edge rusher Malik Reed, linebacker David Long Jr., traded for corner Jalen Ramsey. They also signed safety Deshaun Elliott and punter Jake Bailey. A lot of intra-division movement for Miami.
A lot.
It took a lot from the Patriots and the Jets.
When we were talking about the Patriots, I didn't say anything about this, about, Mike coming up there as a tight end. There's been a lot. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong by saying this. I have not seen this much interdivision changes in a long time. Last decade.
Intra.
In the last decade.
I love correcting you, Mark. It's a great time.
You are going to law school. I've hit my limit, so I'm just backing you up. I'm going to be there for your graduation. So
May 14th, 2024. I don't know. I don't remember that. We got the date. I'll send it to you. Anyways, yeah, I mean, the Dolphins, of course, the Jalen Ramsey trade was the big move this offseason, solidifying the opposite corner of Xavier Howard, paying him a lot of money. I think the tackles were also big to get Abuhi and Wynn because of the impending suspension of never mind. That's with the Jaguars. Never mind. I was thinking of Cam Robinson with Jacksonville. But still, Isaiah Wynn and Abuhi, I think, were both big because Austin Jackson at right tackle, he hasn't worked out necessarily yet as a former second-round pick, or first-rounder, I should say, in 2020. So he's going into a contract year anyways. So he's got to make it work. I don't think they picked up his 5th-year option for 2024. I could be wrong, but they needed some help at the backup offensive lineman spots. Got that in the 2 tackles and Dan Feeney as well. So I think those were big. And other than that, I think the Nick Needham re-signing, he's one of the better slot corners in the league. Van Ginkel has been a beast for Miami for quite a while at pass rush. And then David Long is more of an underrated linebacker, but he's been really solid through his career with the Titans. So, losses-wise, quarterback Teddy Bridgewater is a free agent. They lost wide receiver Trent Sherfield, tight end Mike Gesicki, tight end Adam Shaheen is a free agent. They traded tight end Hunter Long in the Ramsey trade. They offensive tackle Eric Fisher is a free agent. They lost offensive tackle Greg Little. Edge rushers Melvin Ingram and Trey Flowers, both free agents. They lost Elandon Roberts. Corner Byron Jones is a free agent. Safety Eric Rowe. Safety Clayton Fijedalum is a free agent. And they lost punter Thomas Morstead. I think the biggest one, Landon Roberts, was a massive loss on this defense. Now they filled that with David Long, like I said, but I think Roberts was a solid player, and they also drafted well to set up for Roberts leaving because they drafted Channing Tindall last year in the 3rd round. He was their first pick in the draft last year, so I think they set that up nicely with the David Long signing and drafting of Tindall there. Maybe he'll get some more run this year. But the tight end thing was also weird. They lost 3 tight ends. They signed 2, but we'll talk more about this in fantasy. Their tight end room is the worst in the league by far.
Yeah. And you have some good wide receivers, but if you don't have anything across the field, it's going to be an issue.
Yeah. Okay, record-wise, like I said, Week 18 is the division-winning game, and it went to Miami. I have the Miami Dolphins winning the AFC East. Now, I didn't think this was going to happen. In my mind, I had the Bills winning, but when I looked at the schedule and I picked the games in a vacuum, other than cross, collaboration between the division games. So 13-4, 4-2 for the Miami Dolphins is what I have. They start off 3-0 at the Chargers, at the Patriots Sunday Night Football, at home against the Broncos. They lose at the Bills, and then they win another 4 straight at home against the Giants, at home against the Panthers. At the Eagles, they win Sunday Night Football.
Whoa, you picked against the Eagles?
I don't know if the Eagles can cover their guys. That's the biggest thing. They win at home against the Patriots. Now this is the game that loses them the number 1 seed in Week 9. They lose at the Chiefs. I think that loses them the number 1 seed in the AFC. In Germany, they lose that one. So by Week 10, so they go into that one 7-2. They win at home against the Raiders, Week 11. They lose at the Jets on Black Friday, Week 12. Then they win another 4 in a row at the Commanders, at home against the Titans, Monday Night Football, at home against the Jets, at home against the Cowboys. They lose at the Ravens, Week 17. And then they win at home against the Bills, Week 18 for the division win, 4-2 in the division, splitting with the Jets and the Bills.
I don't have a record for them. Listen to this. But this is the team that I think the Ravens and the Dolphins, in my opinion, you could roll a dice out and you could win 13. You could win 9. You could win 7. And it all depends on the quarterback position.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no qualms with somebody getting hit and having concussions. I want to see Tua put an entire NFL season together. Because I still don't like his arm slot. I've always said that since he came out of Bama. But he can move with his feet, and he has so many weapons around him. They just signed a bunch of, like you said, how many running backs do you have to have? Tyreek Hill makes any quarterback. You could be under center, and Tyreek Hill would make you look good because there's going to be so much space. But 13 wins is a lot of wins. But we've been talking about the Bills winning 11 or 12 or 13. I do think they're way above the Jets in terms of just how good they are. I think the ceiling for the Dolphins is 13 wins, but I could see them falling back to 9. No less than 9. No less than 9.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, of course, it's all contingent on Tua staying healthy an entire season. I think he can with the amount of rest he got last year, not playing the last however many games of the season. So I think he should be good to go this year. And we saw what happened with this offense when he was there. It's just explosive.
I like their schedule. It's a good schedule.
Yeah, their 3 cross division games are nice, other than the Ravens, which is the one I have them losing. But the other 2, they play at home against the Titans on Monday Night Football, Week 14. And, of course, they play the Panthers, which I think they'll win that one. Both of those they should win, I think, easily, unfortunately, for our Panthers. Before we go to fantasy, I want to take a second to recognize something that came across my Twitter feed. Very sad. Former Arkansas, and of course played in the NFL as well with the Patriots, Texans, a couple other teams. Quarterback Ryan Mallett has passed away, age 35, a drowning accident. So that's why I want to stop the show real quick, just to put that out there. Crazy.
Really good SEC quarterback.
Yeah, he was currently serving as the head coach at Whitehall High School in Arkansas. I know my roommate probably. I was surprised I haven't gotten a text from him yet about it, since he's in Arkansas. And Arkansasian. I don't know what you call people from Arkansas. It's Arkansas. It's not Arkansas. I always call his car the Arkansas Mobile whenever I see it in the parking lot. Okay. Now that we have recognized Mr. Mallett there, back to the fantasy aspects of the Miami Dolphins. Let's talk more about Tua Tagovailoa. I think he's QB1 all day. This offense, there's no way, if he ends up being healthy, he could be close to the yards record. I mean, I think he's going to easily pass for 4,000 in this offense if he plays all 17. Probably going to throw around 35 plus touchdowns. And at least last year, he didn't really turn it over a lot. So I don't expect that either. He doesn't run, which is fine. But just like Aaron Rodgers, I think Tua has obviously a livelier arm. And the deep shots are what makes this offense click. So I love Tua as a solid QB1.
He's got a downfield threat, obviously, in Tyreek Hill, and what we're talking about is just health.
It's a risk. It's a risk to draft him for sure. But unlike some other guys that I'm scared off about, I don't know if this is going to be my Saquon Barkley this year, because I don't remember if I said anything about Saquon last year, but I know my moves in fantasy and my drafting in fantasy said what I had to about Saquon, because I traded for Saquon right before the season last year. I don't know why. I just had a gut feeling that he was going to stay healthy, and ended up putting out a fantastic season for the Giants. So I don't know if that's my Saquon moment this year is Tua. It might be. But yeah, I love Tua as a QB1 this year. Running backs: Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson Jr. You want to keep going? Myles Gaskin, Salvin Ahmed. Who was the other guy? They also had I don't know who who else. But sure, any running back you want in Miami, just start them. It's fine. No, but Raheem Mostert, I hate this backfield. Absolutely hate it. You don't know which one, which guy is it going to be. I don't think anyone knows other than the people in that building. So unless I can get a fantasy spy into the Dolphins training facility, I don't think I'm going to be drafting any Dolphins running back. You have to draft 2. You have to draft like 2 or 3 of these Dolphins running backs just to cover your bases and hope that you hit on one. So that's the thing with this Dolphins running back room is it's just so murky and no one understands which one or no one knows which guy it's going to be. So definitely staying away from this backfield, even though it's probably going to be productive. I just don't have an inkling of which guy it's going to be currently. Raheem Mostert's a listed starter. Who knows if he's going to be the guy or not. Wide receivers, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. Tyreek, obviously, wide receiver 1, just like Stephon Diggs. He's going to be a monster. And I think if you're drafting Tua to get that stack with Tyreek Hill, obviously you're going to draft Hill a lot earlier than you're going to draft Tua, a couple rounds earlier anyways. I think getting that stack is going to be dangerous this year. Even if you're getting the stack with Waddle and Tua, I think also could be very solid. But I think the Tua Hill connection is already established there. Loves throwing it deep to Tyreek. So I think getting Tyreek in the first round is a great move, even though I like drafting running backs in the first. But I think Hill is definitely worthy of a first-round pick. And I don't say that about many wide receivers. Jalen Waddle, though, I think could probably produce wide receiver 1 stats as well. Crazily enough, you can have 2 fantasy wide receiver 1s here, I think, in this offense. That's where they finished last year, I think, even with all the quarterback issues that they had. I think both still finished in the top 10 wide receivers in terms of fantasy points. So definitely high-end wide receiver 2 at the worst, mid wide receiver 1 at the best for Jalen Waddle. And then tight end, I mentioned this tight end room is just atrocious. Durham Smythe is a listed starter. They have Tyler Kroft, Eric Saubert, who they signed this offseason. I don't like any of those guys. Even in this really crazy good offense, Durham Smythe just ain't it. Mark, you got anything?
Why don't you like him? Why don't you like him?
Because he's a career H-back. He's a blocking tight end. Tyler Kroft.
So if you have all these position players, do you not need somebody to block?
The Dolphins would be best served running 10 personnel the whole year. One running back, 0 tight ends.
I do agree with that. Just downfield speed. Make sure you protect Tua. Let's go score.
And to utilize the speed at running back, just put one of the running backs in the slot and you can run jet sweeps and stuff.
I like that.
But did you have any thoughts? I know you were dealing with everything when I was going through the running backs and the wide receivers. I mentioned the running back room. It's so murky.
It's crowded in my opinion, and the reason it's crowded because I feel that and it's not even a GM perspective, I feel like the coaching staff does not know who they're going to use on a regular basis. You and I, we were just talking about that. Why won't you run 10 personnel? I think they're trying to find the ingredient that makes it perfect to run what they want to run. Yeah, and I think they're trying out people. Obviously, they're not going to keep 5 backs on their roster. There's no way. No one's going to do that in the NFL.
Well, and it was another crazy thing when Dalvin Cook got released, and the Dolphins were one of the two teams that were reportedly interested off the bat. I was like, bro, you just signed 5 running backs all season, drafted another one. Why do you need Dalvin Cook? So yeah, I don't understand that thing, but yeah, I don't like any of the running backs because you have to have 2 if you're going to draft Mostert, you have to draft Jeff Wilson because depending on how early your draft is, because you just don't know. And maybe you can start both of them. I know my one fraternity brother in our fraternity league, he used to do that when the Patriots, you never knew which guy with the Patriots a couple years ago. He would do that with Patriots. He would draft, whoever it was, the starting guy, and then he'd draft James White as well because he got the PPR.
But they used them in the red zone. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that the Dolphins aren't going to use their running backs in the red zone, but I still envision the Dolphins scoring on long plays.
Yeah. But there are no clearly defined roles that we can see just based off what we know about the running backs, right? Because Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson are the same player. They're literally the same player. So
you don't have a catching back and a running back, or you don't have thunder and lightning. They're the exact same.
I think the rookie will be that passing guy, which we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, I also went through the wide receivers, Tyreek, Jalen.
Is there a better combination in the NFL right now?
I said that they'll probably both end up as wide receiver ones.
You might have a really good wide receiver and a really good tight end, but you have two legitimate number one wide receivers on the same roster.
Yeah, and I also mentioned Tyreek. I don't say it about many wide receivers, but Tyreek is a guy that I would feel comfortable drafting in the first round.
By far.
With the caveat that you need to draft Tua later. Because that stack this year, I think will win fantasy leagues. Saying it right now. All right, I mentioned tight ends. Kicker, Jason Sanders. Great. Start him. That's all you need to know. Jason Sanders was the number one kicker a couple seasons ago. Always finishes in the top 10 at the very worst. Top 5 usually every year. Has a big leg. Easy money, Jason Sanders. And this offense should be crazy. So a lot of extra points, unfortunately, but he'll kick the occasional 50-yarder. How about this Dolphins defense? I like them. They were awesome last year, even in a down year for Miami, when Tua went down for those games. But this defense, it could be top 5. I mean, that's how good this defense is. Now, they need some work on the pass rush, but why do you think they got Bradley Chubb in this offseason? And why do you think they got Jalen Ramsey? Is because they released Byron Jones. They have Nick Needham in the slot. Kadar Kohu had a great rookie year last year as undrafted free agent. They have everything you want. The linebacker depth is a little sketchy, but not really worried about that too much. I think they have a couple waves of pass rushers that they can go through. So I think it is a top 5 defense, and I'm excited to watch this team. You got the mute. Mark, you're muted. Mark, you're muted.
Sorry. What I was saying is I've been really hard on the Dolphins, and I'm not going to change until they put an entire season together. Because you've seen them be really good at the beginning of the season and tell off or bad and then get good. Their skill position players are so good, whether it's Chubbs. I'm not a big Ramsey fan just because, he's so talented. I think he talks more than he performs, but he's still top 5. They have so many good skill positions. this defense has to be top tier, right?
Mm.
I mean, if you're looking at taking a defense, it's got to be taken off the board pretty quickly.
Yeah, and what I'm touting about this offense, I mean, this defense is going to be able to eat. They're set up that way to protect leads. With the Ramsey addition, they have the corners to cover with Xavier Howard and Ramsey, Nick Needham in the slot. And they have the pass rushers to get after it when the game's, when the other team has to pass to come back with Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb on the other side. They re-signed Van Ginkel, and they got Malik Reed as well this offseason. So I think they're set up very nicely. Christian Wilkins as well just got some money. He's a beast also. So yeah.
Besides the running back room, they are so skilled. And skilled, that's a a double hit, but they're really good at positions that you need to be good at.
Well, and we didn't even talk about the offensive line. I mean, Tron Armstead, Liam Eichenberg, Connor Williams, Robert Hunt, Austin Jackson, the starting five. Very good. And then I'll even, just to finish off talking about everyone on the team, they got a couple guys from the division, like we talked about. Jake Bailey at punter, who's okay. He's not the greatest punter, but does a decent job. And then, of course, one of the bigger acquisitions you talked about earlier, Braxton Berrios in the return game, punt returner and kick returner he's listed as. He's one of the better returners in the league, especially on punts. So, yeah.
If you have your man at the quarterback position, this team is set up.
Yeah, definitely. Rookie-wise, two guys to talk about. I know Logan's sad that he couldn't be here for this one because he's just the biggest Devin Achane fan in the world. I hated the pick because I said they re-signed 4 running backs this offseason. So why did you have to draft a running back with your first pick? I get it's all about the speed thing, but I do think he's going to have PPR value in redraft leagues this year. I think he's going to be the third down back eventually. Probably because either Mostert or Wilson, those guys get hurt like nothing. So one of those two is probably going to go down, unfortunately to say. And then it's going to give Achane more opportunities, and he can take it to the house in a step. Dynasty-wise, definitely. He went off in the second round in our league. 14th overall. So fifth running back off the board in our league. But yeah, dynasty wise, definitely great option. Redraft, like I said, I think he could be a late round flyer that has some flex value, especially as the season goes on.
I agree with that.
And then the other guy that not many people know about, I don't think. Tight end Elijah Higgins. Now, he wasn't a tight end. He came in, he's still listed as a wide receiver on ESPN, I guess. But he's listed as a tight end on their depth chart. 6th round pick out of Stanford. This kid's 6'3", 234. So super light for a tight end, right? He's going to put on weight. Going to learn how to block better. And, I mean, with the deficiency at tight end in this offense, now he's not fast like all their other weapons.
But he's going to get targets. He's big,
and I think he could be a good option across the middle if he bulks up a little bit. If he just gets to like 250, if he puts on 16 pounds, gets to 250, that's like the base tight end weight, the lightest you want to be there. So with how bad this tight end room is, why not? He's the best. By far, he's the best receiving tight end they're going to have. Sorry, Durham Smythe, Tyler Croft, Eric Salbert. But I really believe in Elijah Higgins. Not worthy of a dynasty stash yet, but I'm going to monitor him the first couple weeks in the season and look at possibly adding him to my dynasty team because, or maybe in the preseason, because I know our taxi squad spots lock once the first game kicks off there on Thursday night. But yeah, I'm super excited for Elijah Higgins. I really like looking at his future with the opportunity that he has in front of him.
I looked at that draft slot of people that you could take in a hybrid position. You talked about him being small, but a better receiver. And I know these guys went way higher, but I thought the Dolphins could have got creative and been like, hey, is there a basketball player out there? I only say that because of Antonio Gates, Tony Gonzalez. Those guys went much higher. But he's so much smaller in stature, height-wise, if that makes sense. I look at him as one of those guys that's like, oh, he's under the radar, but could be a really good thing for this team. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and he was always going to be a convert from wideout to tight end. That was the plan that most teams had looking at him in the draft coming out of Stanford. His teammate Michael Wilson, Arizona, also I think massive opportunity. These Stanford kids are gonna, I think, produce. Michael Wilson a lot quicker than Higgins is. Wilson was the 3rd round pick of the Cardinals, but anyways, yeah, I'm super excited for Higgins, and make sure you watch out for him on your dynasty radar in the preseason, just to see if you want to stash him or not. But that concludes our AFC East preview. To recap, I have the Miami Dolphins winning the AFC East 13-4, 4-2 in the division. Bills second, 12-5, 5-1 in the division. The Jets third place, 10-7, 2-4 in division play, and then the Patriots 6-11, 1-5 in the division. And then Logan has the Bills winning the division 13-4, Dolphins second 11-6, Jets third 11-6, and the Patriots fourth 6-11 as well. You're the deciding vote, Mark. Is it Bills or Dolphins?
Bills.
So you're going Bills, Dolphins, Jets, Patriots?
Bills, Dolphins, Jets, Patriots. Here is a better question. Does somebody from this division win the Super Bowl?
I mean, like Logan said, the Dolphins had the pieces. It's all right there. And if Tua plays 17, there's nothing stopping them. The roster is absolutely loaded.
It is loaded. It is loaded.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that they could – if it's Miami versus Kansas City in the AFC title game, I mean, that game's going to end up 56-55. So,
and I would love to see that. I would love to see that. Would that not be every football lover's dream?
It'd be every offensive coordinator's dream. I don't know about defense. But yeah, I mean, everything is there for the Dolphins or the Bills to win it. I'm lower on the Jets than probably the consensus. I think they have more holes than people think. But anyways, that is the show for today. Thank y'all for watching. Next Tuesday is July 4th. So maybe we do a Monday show, Wednesday show. I don't know. We'll see what the guys think. But we'll give you the USFL Championship game recap. And we'll also give you any news, if there is any, because there wasn't any this past weekend, but any college football, NFL, XFL, USFL news. And then on Friday, we're switching over. We're starting college football previews, conference previews. So we're doing the ACC on Friday. Next week, whenever our show is, we'll be doing the American Athletic Conference preview. So that should be entertaining as well. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media at FAA Podcasts on Instagram and Twitter, FAA_bets as well. FAApodcast.com is our website. You can check us out here. We're live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter currently. And then you can also get the sound on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, etc. Thank you, Mark and Logan, even though he's not here anymore. And we'll see y'all back Football Friday.